Welcome to the Sun Lakes Country Club Board Budget Workshop, September 25th. I want everybody to stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Just want to remind everybody that today is not a town hall. Tomorrow, we're going to have two town halls, one at 10 and one at 1 o'clock. But today is a workshop. So there'll be no questions from the audience, but there will be questions from our FACT committee during the presentations from our various directors and leaders here from First Service. So I'm going to turn it over to First Service at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching that. And for the residents here, good afternoon. We're going to start with the presentation. We're going to have we're going to do a little summary up on the screen, and then we'll have the specific director talk about some of the issues going on within the budget, within 2024, what's happened in 2023, and what's happening into 2024. Also, this will give you an opportunity to ask some questions from the board level, from the FAC, and so let us begin.
Hey, Chris, before you start, there's questionnaires that are out there that you had put out for, do you want to explain those?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's quite. Yeah, we're going to get this sound system down. The questionnaires that are out there are for the members who may, during the presentation or after, have questions. Please fill that out, your name, the question, turn that in to Jason. We will be looking for any input from the audience. We will not be answering those during the meeting. We have 2 hours and we have to get through all the departments, and so really it's focusing on the board and the FAC and staff interaction. Okay, so let us begin. We're starting, so as the 2024 budget, as we have been working through this, this is the board has reviewed the operating and the repair and replacement expenditures. We are on draft 3, and that's what we'll be talking about today is draft 3. So first we're going to start off with food and beverage. And so this summary that's on the screen up there is right now we have planned for 2024 a $413,000 roughly annual subsidy compared to the 2023 annual subsidy of $504,000. That's a change of roughly $90,000, an 18% change downward or decrease year over year. And so some of the things that have changed in our budget projection for 2024 is revenue has been reduced due to the service reduction as a result of the lounge expansion. Planned lounge expansion is January through May of 2024, and that will impact some of the business. Therefore, we have to bring down some of the projected revenue, bring down the labor, cost of goods sold. Speaking about labor, labor was reduced due to service reduction in 2024. The lounge expansion will impact that, and the board is working with management on a business plan to reduce labor hours in underperforming meal periods. The cost of goods sold is also reduced. This is a business plan that we've presented, calls for a lower cost of goods that will align with industry standards. Looking ahead, the lounge expansion will reduce the service area, and this is a major impact on service. So before I let Thomas go forward, so for 2023 so far, revenues have lagged the projected budget. Food and beverage combined labor has come close to 6% higher than we had budgeted. Cost of goods sold for food has exceeded the budget for the year based on the budget of the menu that was currently or is currently in place or was in place, was built on March 2022 pricing, and no increases were put forward until we did that in September, Thomas? Okay. Let's see. What will be the changing in 2024? Again, a key thing is the business plan. that we presented to the board. We will be collaborating with them on what their vision is for the food and beverage operations. Focus will be on the lounge, banquets, and sporting events. We've recently completed the Sandwich, and we'll be looking to add food items, festivities for sporting events like football, National Football League on Sunday, and the first time that the association has had Sunday ticket that allows out-of-network games to be aired. We will also be doing that for playoffs. October, we'll have the baseball playoffs. We'll be scheduling events around that. So that's a focus that we have changed or pivoted to. The menu change to meet the members' requests on small plates and healthy options will be a focus into 2024, but members can still expect to see their favorites. That's one thing members who have completed or had turned in message to management have requested, that the favorites stay in place, but that we look to implement some type of small plates and healthy option. The lounge expansion will have an impact on the business model. Again, as I said earlier, the revenue is being reduced. The labor budget has been set to an 80% of revenues. This has been reduced due to the decline in projected revenue. And of course, the cost of goods sold will follow industry standards. So with that, Thomas, if you want to comment on any outlook or different ideas that we are coming up with for 2024, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I mean, what a challenging year, and who would have ever thought that food costs was going to go out of sight, and labor, especially hourly wages. You know, it's pretty difficult anymore to be able to hire, you know, somebody in the kitchen for under $25 an hour. Years ago, you know, I mean, of course, every year it changes, but, you know, we were able to, you know, hire cooks for 18 to 20. Now, you know, you can, an average, you know, cook is going at $25 an hour. So there are challenges. There's challenges with the, you know, with that, and also bringing in, you know, staffing people and paying them at the hourly that the going rate for them. You know, the minimum wage doesn't cut it anymore. We have to pay a better wage in order to get great people and to keep them here. We are, you know, we are challenged by losing candidates to the casinos, because the casinos offer not only a higher hourly wage, but they're also giving them cash bonus incentives. After, if they stay 90 days, they're going to get a $2,500 cash bonus for being there for those 90 days. And so again, that's a perk that we can't offer. So there are many, many challenges. You know, the goal is, in the end, for us to to serve, you know, to take care of our residents, serve nice food, have an amenity here for everybody to enjoy, and to be able to kind of go with the changing times. And I think that's what we're moving toward. And also the banquets. I do, not only I'm the food and beverage director, but I'm also the banquet coordinator. I do all the banquets, and the banquets have increased tremendously, and that has helped our bottom line by doing as many banquets as we are doing. You know, an average of, you know, last month was nearly 20 banquets. And really, that's what we want to push toward. We really want to utilize this room all the time, as much as we can. I don't turn anybody away. I do my very best to accommodate everybody's, whatever they want to do here, and in whatever capacity, whether I'm going to use the Sandwich for an event when it's not being used for bar and grill and, you know, sporting events, or the restaurant today. We have Women for Hope. They have their luncheon in there after their golf tournament with 90 women. Again, we're closed Mondays, so of course I'm not going to turn it away. We've figured out a way to accommodate them and to open the kitchen today to take care of them. And this is what we want to do moving forward. You know, there are challenges, but nothing that we can't overcome. And, you know, we just do our best and put our, you know, our heads down and just take on the challenges that are coming our way.
If I can just add, and I forgot to preface this earlier, so that the board and the FAC are aware that minimum wage is going to $16. That's a 3.5% increase. Right. Also, you may have heard Governor Newsom's 9, I forgot what they're called, their 9-group committee that works on adjusting minimum wage rates for fast food. There, I believe the governor has will implement in April a $20 minimum wage for fast food. That will have, you might say, oh, that's okay. They'll still come to work here. And I've said this to FAC in years past, said it to the board, that it will be a challenge going forward on recruitment. Much easier to bag a Big Mac and order a French fries and a soda, hand it through the window. You don't even have to say, have a nice day. Just hand it off, you're done. $20 an hour. So these are things we're going to be competing with, which could have a negative impact on us.
Yes, however, I would like to point out that we wouldn't be classified as fast food. We wouldn't
we
have to
won't.
pay the $20. And the people that work here, it's a better working environment, and they get gratuities.
It is, but there's a challenge that it may be a draw to pull away
Right.
from our ranks. We won't have to comply by it, but it may pull from our ranks.
Right.
And I have a question just about information. It feels like we don't get good reports on things like banquet performance, Monday Night Football. How will these be improved? Because in order to effectively manage and stay on top of increased cost, changes in revenue, what's more profitable versus one type of event versus another, how can we do a better job in getting information?
So that was the job of the front of the house manager to work on those reports. He's no longer with us. So we will be pivoting to a staff clerical that would generate these reports from the POS that will hopefully provide us timely reports on not only the sales, but some of the costs with bands, events. That will assist Thomas in planning, because we'll have some of the data instead of waiting so long for a month to generate those numbers.
Thanks.
Good.
If you can use the mic. You'll need to use the mic.
Make it green.
You used the McDonald's drive-through as the example of $20 an hour for minimum wage, but the people at McDonald's don't get tips. Okay, and so when you take into consideration the tips and what we're paying them, okay,
mentioned that.
then their true earnings are a lot greater.
Agreed. I agree with you.
For a server and bartender.
Yes.
For a server and bartender, but your dishwasher, your busser, your expo, which are critical components to the back of the house to get the food out, to make sure that the tools, so to speak, are ready, that's where you're going to have your impact. And that's where we're seeing right now an impact.
Again, there's also the pros of, when I interview someone, this is a great place to work, and I sell it. I sell it in the way where it is a great place to work. And not only are you in a wonderful, gated, safe community, you don't have to look over your shoulder when you're walking to your car at night. There's a lot of pros, and pros for women. When I hire them, that they like that safety factor, and that we are in a 55 community. So there are ways to sell it. I get it. There's more than just, but those are just a few of the challenges, and that's not really, I agree with you, and I always let them know that there is an auto gratuity here, that, they are guaranteed, but that also goes with providing optimum guest service and making sure that they earn that 15% that they're guaranteed. So, again, I'm with you on that completely. I completely understand, but, we are still challenged. We are challenged by the casinos because they are offering things that we can't offer.
Okay, now I forgot my question. Okay, I read somewhere or heard somewhere that the Sandwich will be the only food establishment, basically, from January 4th on. No, that's not true. Okay.
No, you'll be able to a part of the restaurant. The ballroom will be available, so we still have the ability to do some banquets and everything that are serviced out here. But the lounge area and that front part of the restaurant will not be able to be used. So where the air wall is, from that part to the sandwich is still usable. You'll have to enter through the sandwich or the doors that lead into the restaurant right next to the sandwich doors. So we're going to have to talk about this with the board, and Jason is working on the pinging and the ringing sound. Thomas is not a tin man. He does have a heart. We are working on signage and lighting because it's going to require members to go that area, and we're going to need to illuminate it a little better than it is right now.
I understood that the bar wasn't going to be, they're not demoing the bar, the existing bar now. So that's going to be closed though still?
Yes, because you still have sand particle, or dirt particles, whatever, that from the construction. Basically, they're going to, in essence, put a bubble, a wrap around the outside of the kitchen so the kitchen can remain open. But that front area, because they're still going to have to demo areas of the ceiling above the bar to run sound. They're still going to be doing construction in that whole area, and you just don't want to be serving drinks and have concrete in your martini. It just wouldn't work.
So there's no way that you can maintain the operation of the bar until the very last phase of the expansion so that you can still have comfortable service for the banquets, for if they have the great weather, if they have something on the veranda or something like that? There's no way that they can keep that bar operational?
No, sir. We're going to have to pivot using the library bar, so that you'll have that bar over there. You have a portable bar in here, and then we'll have the sandwich bar.
So for the servers that are in here, if they want some of the back shelf liquors, they're going to have to go all the way to the sandwich to try to...
No, that's
service
the
this.
library bar.
You're going to have full backup bottles.
That was our
Full
backup
liquids.
plan to have, so that the main bar would be down, that I could still have service. So Tom, I'm expecting you to come down to the library with the fireplace, have a drink.
So everything will get transferred over to the library bar.
Trust me, I support the bar.
I know you
really
do.
well.
That's why I'm expecting you to be there.
Now, staffing, because it's limited to the sandwich and part of the restaurant and banquets, what's going to happen to the people that you're not going to be utilizing? I mean, are they going to get laid off?
No, we'll still have use for them, because again, Thomas had talked about doing more banquets. And so you would utilize, instead of having somebody getting 50 hours a week, they'll get to their normal 32 hours a week because you're able to spread it. Because right now, if you imagine a bucket of resources that I'm trying to put everywhere, now the service area comes down, now I won't overstrain the staff. And that's the big thing that we've been, unfortunately, happening right now, is you have people in overtime. And it should bring them back down to what they were part-time,
Right.
32 hours or less.
So we still do have basically about 2/3 of the dining room operational.
2/3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you would say, yeah.
It is.
Once they put that permanent wall up
Yes.
there,
Yes.
and if you were to have a major event going on in the sandwich, has there been any thought about maybe having a minimal dining atmosphere in here?
That's our time for Thomas.
If I have to, is that me?
No, go, that was me saying you
If
got
I
your
have
time.
to, you know me, I won't turn anything away. And if this is empty or available, I'll put something here. We can pull the wall and we can put an event here in the front half or whatever we need to do. So I will do my very best to accommodate everyone during these 4 months. And I'll make it happen. I mean, I did when the sandwich was down, I used half of the restaurant, I did whatever I could do, so we didn't lose anything. And I'll do the same this time around.
That was it for Thomas, unless there's anything further.
Nope, thank you.
Okay.
Well, before we leave food and beverage, I would like to ask one question. The software that we have, I understand we do not own. We do not own that software.
We own the equipment, the software is leased, or is not leased, we have the software, but the updates and service are what we pay a monthly fee for. The software is ours, it just wouldn't get any updates.
And what would you say right now is our payroll cost running percentage-wise?
Payroll cost is about 91% of revenues, 92.
And do we, because of the software doesn't give us a breakdown of banquet income, payroll, sandwich income, payroll, lounge income, payroll?
No.
It doesn't give us breakdown, so we don't really know where we're getting hurt with that 91% payroll. That
Actually,
means-
we do, and this goes back, Tom, to when Sherry Wood was here and talked about data mining. So we have to go back to ADP, which is software that First Service uses for payroll, know who worked the banquet, go to ADP and pull those out, pull the revenue from the POS, and then an estimate of any expenses like linens, which come off the BEOs. It's a lot of back work. So when Gary asked, when are we going to get the reports? It's not like a Micros, which I've used in the past, that you can press a button and immediately have what the labor is for that area, your cost of goods sold, and the revenue generating, and know instantaneously that we're slow, send somebody home. This is, Thomas has to be out there in the front looking at it, seeing the tickets come through and go, send them home, we're slow. Imagine it, the analogy is weird, it's all manual. There's no automatic system here.
And so if we're looking at 91.2% payroll cost, that means every dollar that comes into food and beverage, no matter where it is, 91 cents has already gone to payroll. And so we don't have a breakdown so we can see where are we getting hurt. You can't.
Not automatically.
It's
We have
not
to go to the back and data mine the information.
It's not sustainable to only get 9 cents out of every dollar that comes into the restaurant and bar to be able to continue operating at this level.
I think it was a budget meeting, maybe Mary Jo remembers, that I said we should update the software. And that was about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, and it was turned down. So we're living with a manual, we're living with a manual system right now.
You just said that we're subscribing to a monthly fee for
Correct.
update, but then you said we can't get an update.
No, what I said is payroll is not part of that. So imagine this is a system that allows a server to click a button that you're going to order bacon and eggs, sends it back to the kitchen gets it, I know how many covers, how many people are at the table, what's being ordered, the amount that I'm collecting from that order, and tip and sales tax. I'm getting all that information. But behind the scenes of the payroll piece, that has to come from ADP, and that is us working behind the scenes to pull that information out. And then, as Tom had said, is breaking down by the areas, our system will say, well, this is lounge, this is restaurant. So Tom is asking a great point, I think, to what Gary is, okay, I want to know the bands that play very good, what am I bringing in on revenue? We have to then go data mine from the POSs. Thomas goes, okay, it was Gina, it was Letty, Erlinda, and it was Carlos in the back, and it was whoever dishwashing. That's the labor, that's the hours they worked. Pull their tickets for sales, because all the sales are lumped in with the lounge. That's what's the data mining that we're doing. That's a lot of busy work behind the scenes. I would advise not to turn them off, because you're going to have questions.
Can't you just get that from the staffing schedule?
From the schedule will just say this is what they did, but if Thomas sent them home early, or he pivoted and moved Letty over to work the restaurant because she could do 10 tables and move somebody else in the lounge, I need the actual. The schedule is just to say this is what we had planned. Ultimately, I want to know what was the actual, who worked this area.
But how, rather than data mining all this information, it seems like you can use the schedule and
You could estimate it, of course, and say, I think Letty's spent 4 hours there.
and how often does that happen, that they get this, sent somewhere
it does happen often. I mean, there's call-offs last minute, then I'm having to shift people around. There's also,
You've got to be making those on your schedule though, right?
well, you can, yes, of course you can update it, but, you know, things happen last minute and you're scrambling, running around with a chicken like a chicken with your head cut off. Sometimes you don't remember to do that. But the other thing is also, I'm sorry, the other thing is also, yeah, I think, you know, again, you plan for 4 hours of labor for a banquet, but sometimes they end up staying an extra hour for just whatever reason. The banquet ended up staying longer, so they had to stay longer. Again, you didn't plan that in there, so again.
We want to know the actual, what actually.
You want to be very
Bless you.
accurate.
Mary Jo, I think the bottom line is the information you want, that Gary asks for, that we all want to get, would be fabulous. But 3 or 4 years ago, the board denied spending the money to upgrade to a system that could do that. So now we are, as they call it, data mining. This is called manual. They are, and Sherry was very good at that, if you remember Sherry when she was here. She was very good at doing that. And she would spend hours back behind the closed doors doing that kind of thing. That's why none of us ever saw her. But it takes a ton of time, and it still isn't giving us exactly what we need as quickly, nowhere near as quickly as we'd like. So unless we want to spend the money to upgrade to a system that will do all that for us, this is kind of where we are at this point in time. So that's something to keep in mind.
How much is that system?
I don't
You
know.
used the term.
I don't know right now.
Don't know. any-
Jason knows the answer to that.
Jason knows all the answers.
You used the term data mining. Do we have an IT professional that works in the admin office?
No, sir.
Okay.
If it's that important, we ought to certainly expedite it, I would think.
I agree, Bill.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile, like I said, maybe Jason knows, but technology has changed. Maybe it's possible the price of such a system has come down. I think it's worth looking into. I think
Jason
we
is
should-
working with some techs from North Korea to see if the price is lower. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But it is worth looking into. I agree with all of you. At this, we've seen what happens when we have to sit in the back and not interact with our customers, which is what everybody in the restaurant wants. They want Thomas out there, not sitting behind closed doors doing this kind of stuff. So it's worth it to look into doing something like that so that we can get the answers everybody's looking for. Sometimes you got to spend a little up front to get a whole lot behind.
I thought that at the time that this was, one of the options, seemed like an exorbitant money, but that that one of the companies that we dealt with did have that update available, no?
Oh, they had
Was it
ClubSoft had an update that would allow not laptops, but tablets to be used, and the board did at that time. It was less than 25,000. The board approved that. But when you're looking at a $200,000 investment for an upgrade at the time, the board did not agree with that.
And this would not be an update. This would be throwing away the system we have now and buying a brand-new system and starting with that.
But would that reduce that computer support figure?
No, I think you're always, whatever software you're going to do, you're always going to have computer support.
It's just like your GPS.
That's $100,000 for this coming year.
And well, that along with third party, so that in the budget under admin, under computer support is not only for the POS, that's also for our network systems, the firewall to prevent hacking, the server, there's more than just that. So even if you cut the little piece of the POS, you're still going to need, in this age, some third party backing up the information. See, that's my time to, sorry, Bob. So that 100,000 that you're talking about is not solely just for food and beverage.
So we cannot have the software owners and have them be required to give us what we need on those screens to be able to break down our sales.
Well, it's behind the scenes.
Banquets, lounge, sandwich, so on and so on.
So-
where we would have a better understanding of how much is coming in from that particular area, and we could easily compare that with the payroll from that night.
Yes, but now remember, the software and the system is the HOAs and ADP is First Service. They don't talk to each other. So I have two systems. We don't do payroll here on site. That's part of the agreement with First Service. They do the payroll and they utilize ADP. There's no interface because we've already tried that.
I was just saying, we lease the software. We pay them probably thousands of dollars every month for the software.
We just pay we have the software, we own it, but the updates and any customer service piece is what we pay monthly for.
So we do own the software.
Right.
Okay.
And the equipment on it.
It's kind of like your GPS, Tom. You own your GPS, but you got to pay to get that updated every year, or else you drive off a bridge like that guy in wherever, North Carolina.
I guess just to finish up, I mean, Thomas, I guess I'd ask you, are you comfortable with the budget we've set for 2024? It's around $400,000 amenity cost, let's put it that way. I mean,
Look, I am, we're going into kind of an unknown. We're planning, with a construction and everything going on, we're trying to forecast. And all I can say is, I hope we can subsidize a little less and we continue to generate more events and more things here and continue to bring our people in. That's all I really want. So I would like to say, yes, I'm okay with it, but would I like to do better? Of course I would. And do I want to decrease that? Yes, I do.
I'm not asking, I would just like to have a realistic budget and know that's what the, cost of I mean, it's an amenity. I think it's a very valuable amenity. For me, when I looked at what we had in Sun Lakes, the restaurant and the bar was standalone, a benefit was almost impossible to find at other HOAs. So I appreciate that we have that. Yeah. It's just that we have to do a better job. And I do think we need to look at information, if there's possible to get an upgrade to a system that will give us better information, because that's the only way to really manage. And I don't know, I seem to see these systems in smaller restaurants. So I'm hoping that the cost of technology has brought this down.
We would always need to make sure we have an integrated software that not only does food and beverage, but does golf, tee times, because that's where some software, when we were looking, didn't do, because they could do restaurants, but they could do nothing with a pro shop and their goods and services and the tee times and everything. So that's one thing. We're just that's Jason throwing something in the back. Yeah, we have to be mindful of there are some systems that cannot handle, and we would want to have one software system for everything.
I would like to mention is that talking about a realistic subsidy, the original budget was only $211,000. So we have reworked this and come up with, I think, a more realistic budget. And we do have 10 other items on the agenda to cover. So if you have any other, please put it in writing, on the budget comment slip, and we will definitely address it. Thank you.
I got one. Okay. I just want to say thank you and appreciate everyone's support. I look forward to 2024, and I'm on my way to plan another banquet, and I look forward to seeing you all tonight in the Sandwich for the Rams game, okay? Thank you.
Which starts at 4 o'clock.
Yes, next, slide on down, gentlemen, or take the microphone. Next, we're going to do golf. I'm going to start with Mark Birchfield and then go into the pro shop items and rates with Brian. And so first, as you see, year over year on our slide, the 2024 annual subsidy is planned to be about $1.5 million. Last year was about $1.65 million. Year over year decline of about $136,000 or 8%. So how did we do that? Golf revenue is planned to increase as we've seen increased play with guests. We are going to be looking at changing the rates. That has helped, and also I think we have a good salesperson in the pro shop for our products in there, and so that has helped. Labor costs are expected to have a small increase year over year. Now, overall utilities, whoa, sorry, that's a fly.
There's a lot of fun
That's,
going
overall utilities declined as usage estimates for electricity, we revised those downwards. A question area, and Mark will talk about that, is we have some concerns is pesticides and herbicides, seed prices, they've continued. This has unfortunately been a continued trend from 2022, so that's an area we're monitoring. And looking ahead, it really is Mother Nature and the weather. That could affect the budget. 2023, early on, we might remember, January, February, March, very wet. It's causing a lot of the growth that Birch is now fighting, Marsh Lighton's fighting in a common area. We saved on utilities, but unfortunately, the other side of the ledger is we've lost revenue during that time. Now, the outlook is potential rainy season. Birch is working his magic of trying to look in the Farmer's Almanac, hiring people that can call in the rain when needed. Just kidding. But seriously, the outlook is concerned. And after this last one, we had a tropical storm here that had some impact. Supply chain issues are also an item that is affecting us, along with inflation. The equipment, the cost of equipment. We'll talk a little bit later about the impact on the repair and replacement reserve. This is an item that also that Birch is going to talk about that of his issues finding new equipment and having to really utilize his mechanics to maintain the existing equipment. So with that, Birch, why don't you give us some insights into your department, please?
Okay, thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? Just don't want to squelch the mic. I've heard enough of it. Anyway, thank you for having me today to explain some of the things that go into my budget and how we come up with numbers. I think we've been trending pretty well for the last few years as far as maintaining a budget number that's realistic. We've not had, even though we've had the challenges of a complete inflationized economy, which hits me very hard because of the commodities that I use. We use fuel, we use pesticides, herbicides, seed, equipment parts, equipment. All these things have been hit tremendously by the inflation of the past 2 years. I don't have an organized way to follow down this, but if you look at the budget itself, you know, we've minimized increasing and we've really minimized decreasing. We're pretty close as in terms of inflation. I think we're moderately as close as we can get. Gary asked the question to Thomas if he's comfortable with it. I am comfortable with it because I have to manage it. If I get to a point where the environment comes in and changes our environment to the point where we're super wet or super dry, we make changes in our system on how we water the golf course and how we continue to maintain it. These are things that I take pride in because I think we followed the environment, not necessarily just having a number and following a number. And you can see that pretty much in the water numbers. The utilities that are involved in my department pretty much are reflective of what we pump out on the golf course. So if our environment increases us to put more water out, we have more pumping costs because of the energy levels of those pumps, and they have to run longer, which leads to equipment. You know, the pump station over there was reduced in size a number of years ago because of the planned reduction of turf. That has gone away. Our pumps run at a high frequency and a high load because of the amount of gallons we need to pump out from May until the end of September. But after that, minimal water is really going out, and our energy demand and our water demand decreases. The majority of the water and the energy is coming at us from May until September. So we manage that on a daily basis, and I think that we have seen increases or improvement in the water based on the 26 acres of drought tolerance that we did do. The price of water is not going down, but yet we're maintaining a very good number, a very fair number for what we're doing out here. And I'm starting to see where those numbers are coming in, where it's reflective in our water use. One of the things that is important for you to know is that, yes, we are looking at equipment purchases in 24, 25. The new the new way of buying equipment today, because of the stock that's out there, the supply and demand, and this supply chain has been very challenged for the manufacturers of golf equipment. Golf equipment, we primarily depend on John Deere and Toro. Those are the two kings of golf tournament and turf equipment in the United States, and really pretty much the world. And a lot of this stuff has gotten so technical, it's full of electronics. It's no longer a lawnmower that you pull a string on and just fire it up and go. These are very highly technical machines. They've put a lot of software into it, and so a lot of this stuff is coming from China and Taiwan. It seems like the biggest emphasis I can say is that we can't get the electronic parts because of those commodities that go into those electronic parts are not coming to fruition for us in the turf business. So the manufacturers are literally 2 years behind on manufacturing on most of their equipment. I don't know what is available and what isn't, because the way we're buying equipment now is when something comes available in the nationwide search, we're offered it. So I've got a fairway mower that's been on order for a year, and we don't see any sign of it coming in. There might be some carts, there might be a couple mowers, but we will not be able to fill this demand, even if we wanted to, even if we had the money in our hand. So that is a challenge with equipment. Consequently, the repair budget goes up. We are buying every piece of equipment, parts that we need, in advance to a certain point so we can plan the obsolescence of that thing breaking. If it breaks and we can't get a part, we don't mow your greens. We have backup equipment that's, it's struggling. We've had hydraulic leaks. I mean, I've had a lot of challenges with it, but we have a good mechanic, we have a good program, and we are Band-Aiding this together because I don't have any other choice. It's not anyone's fault. It's just the way things hit us coming through the pandemic and through what's going on. And so we make lemonade out of lemons. And that's basically what we've got down there right now. The reserve analysts pretty much set us almost to zero. In other words, zero value, zero lice available. It doesn't mean our equipment won't run. It means that we have to keep it running, and it means we are vulnerable to parts availability. And someday we may not be able to mow the greens or mow the tees because we have the machines down. Usually, like this year, we've replaced 7 engines this year, all of them in pretty much the tee mowers and the carts. So, needless to say, when one machine starts failing, it's usually a flaw within the equipment in the design and development. It's only really supposed to last 6 or 7 years. We're pushing the envelope at 10, 12 years on a lot of this equipment. So they've lived their life. They've done a good job. It's been great equipment, but it's pretty much at the end of their life cycle. So we're being careful, and we are trying to get equipment. In terms of chemistry and fertilizer, it is ever-changing due to the price of petrol. In order for them to make fertilizers and chemistries, it's all done with petroleum, with heat, with gas, and that is a direct influence on what we pay. A lot of our stuff was coming from Russia, the calcium nitrate and the ammonium. A lot of this was coming from Russia and Europe. And as you guys know, shipping costs have gone up. Just making the raw product has gone up because of the petroleum need, the natural gas that goes into it. These are serious affecting aspects of this commodity. I think we're doing pretty darn well. I really do. We're staying within some numbers, or very close to them, and I applaud my mechanic and our suppliers for getting us what we need in a timely way. So we're running. Let's see. You know, right now, I mean, like I said, there's very few big changes in the budget, but as I look forward to this year, it's going to be about doing the same things we've done because they're working. I'm monitoring. I only purchase when I need to. I don't go out and stick my neck out unless it's something that I see coming. Everything that I do is talk to with Chris, goes over with the master board, and we come to the very best decision possible for the association, and I believe that's working. Other than that, reserves, I spoke about the equipment, that's a big thing. We're not going to get equipment all in at one time. If there's $1 million there, I really don't see that being hit over 3 years. I'll be lucky if I really get half of it. I think it's just going to be what I can get. We do have some things that are available coming through that we need, and we'll be doing those things. But as I said, the days of buying $1 million worth of equipment are over. You can't do it unless you buy it 2 years out, 3 years out. So that's kind of the realistic part of what we're going with and what's happening. So I don't see any big trucks coming in, loads of new equipment, dropping off and being flush. That's not going to happen. It'll be onesie-twosie.
Mark, can I just ask you,
Sure.
well, first of all, are you comfortable with the staffing level that you have now?
Good question, Gary. I really should have been the first thing I talked about. But right now, just to let you know what is the challenges, I see right now the residents and the golfer expectation rising. I think that's because we're giving a better product. I think when a resident looks across the fairway and sees a bare spot, they don't understand why, they have to look at it and why this guy's got it and this person doesn't have it. There's explanations for it. And I think that the residents, the homeowners, we've got 1,500 or 1,700 somewhere on the golf course, both of them. That is their backyard. I believe they perceive it that way, and they expect it to look like their backyard. And it can't always be that way. Labor, staffing, we have 23, including me. We never, ever have a full crew. We've got vacation times, we've got sick days, we have leave of absences like every other department comes in. Some people have crises in their lives, and we don't have any build-up for that. We don't have any backup. So, yeah, Gary, the labor's challenging. As I see it right now, the expectation is rising. And it's not just from the golfer. It's really mostly from the expectation of the residents. But
I think you guys are doing a great job, so.
They work
Yeah.
hard, they do, they're good crew.
I think the golf, you're within budget, and the golf, I live on the golf course. I think it looks great, at least in front of me anyway, so.
Well,
Let me ask you about the relationship with artistic maintenance. How is that working? Are you involved with them?
I am.
Okay, how is that
I
working?
will tell you that Artistic does a great job. Artistic is not an overly large company, but I'm going to be honest, I got here 11 years ago. And when I got here, I was pretty much watching how things go. The common areas is what artistic maintenance was taking care of, the trees, all the mowing and all the landscape around there. Since then, we've added 26 acres of drought-tolerant area, and the trees that are along the edges of the golf course have gotten bigger and bigger and fuller and fuller. And Artistic does a great job. They have, 4 or 5 guys that do it, but they're going between the common area and my area. And so they can't just dedicate themselves to the golf course. And we need to have a standalone contractor is what we need. And we're with the right staff and be here on a daily basis because it's necessary. We've got thousands of trees out there. And the liability keeps growing. And I'm trying to keep you guys safe. The residents, the golfers, everything that goes with it is what I care about.
So that right now is the responsibility of artistic maintenance?
I work with Monaco directly on getting what I call the resident fires put out. Okay. Right now, we are not to the tree program. We're not able to do the varieties in the years that we want to. We're not able to knock out hole by hole the way we want to because we need constant 5-day-a-week attention. All the time, not just 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day. I need it, 6, 7 hours a day. We need that. But we're investigating that. We're putting this to the board right now. We are working on finishing up what I'm trying to do as far as a comparison. We did hole number 11 recently, and it looks really nice. But it's a contractor that's devoted just to the golf course entity that I'm looking for. Again, I'll tell you, Monaco Sanchez does a great job. His guys do a good job, but we spread them so thin between Mark Slyden's areas and my areas, they can't do it all. They can't do it. But I'll tell you, they do respond, and I think they're a good company, and I've had a good time working with them. But I need to be more in control, is what I'm saying. I need control of my day-to-day operation on the golf course.
But your proposal in reference to that is not included in this budget for 2024.
Where's that at?
So the contractor there's two things that Mark one is the trees, and that will be coming out of the reserve. That's a reserve, repair and replacement reserve item, tree maintenance, tree removal, tree planting, and it would be a different vendor in that. But as far as the weeding area of the 26 acres, Artistic also handles that. And that, if we were to bring that on internally to meet the needs of the members as the demand, that would be additional staffing that would be required by Birchfield's team.
Which is not included in this current
sir.
2024 budget.
Yeah,
That's
I
my
wasn't sure
point.
where he put it, so.
That's my point. Thank you.
Yeah, so Gary, on the staffing aspect, all those things count, but I will tell you, I think they're a great company, good guys that work for them, and I'm not here to beat up anybody. I'm just trying to control the things that I know really are falling on me that people expect answers from me on, and
Thanks, Mark.
responsibility.
Appreciate what you do.
Thank you. Yes, Gino?
This is basically an accounting question. Under golf course maintenance, the green belt allocation, which I understand what it is.
Okay.
It's
I wish
showing
I
up
did.
as a $1,138,000 credit. Under landscape, it's showing up as $1,138,000 as an expense. Now, if my math is correct, these two things negate each other out. So where's this expense actually captured?
So the pure cost is captured in golf course maintenance. That is all of the direct expenses of labor, utilities. The green belt then transfers 35% from golf course maintenance, reducing their monthly and yearly expense. And that portion is allocated to Mark Schleiden's landscaping. So they negate each other, but the cost moves from golf course, that portion, 35%, moves from golf course to landscaping common area.
Why do we even report it if it's going to net out to zero every time?
So that represents the 35% of the golf course years ago was walked through with the management team, the board at that time, I believe GAC, I'm not sure, walked through and said that is a shared common area. Even though it's golf course, that area has benches that people sit at when they're walking around Sun Lakes on the sidewalk. Even though that area is classified as golf course, it's common area, and so they determined that they needed to do an allocation to represent the true cost of common area and take it off from golf course maintenance. So it's just moving within the departments. The net zero. Go ahead. It does. That is correct. From golf course, a portion moves from golf course to common area. That's how it's allocated and shows up.
So I never budget I never do anything with that. It's an anomaly to me that is in my budget that shows up, and I always scratch my head and say, okay. I mean, that's kind of what it is.
He just worries about the pure costs, and that's
Yeah.
good. We want him to focus on the pure costs.
I have a question. Now, right now, you're fully staffed, correct?
I am.
Okay. On the 2024 budget, the pro shop labor costs,
That's
Brian.
Brian.
Oh, that's you. I'm
And,
sorry.
and I'm almost done.
He's been overdone.
So, yeah, again, thank you very much for listening to me and going over this with me. I'm going to do my best again to fiscally take care of everything as I've done in the past, and hopefully I see you again next year with positive things to say.
Okay, now we're going to move on to Brian Garlington to come over, and he can give us insight into his department. 70 to 20.
Yes. Hopefully there's some buck in there.
Randy, just trying to get your attention.
This one.
Okay, Brian, give us some insight.
Well, wait a second, you talked and then you said, and then you let it go to Mark. Well, what do you want to know? So I did a little SWOT analysis, if all of you, it means strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the department. And I just kind of want to go real quickly over our strength. I think a lot of our strengths is one, we have, I think, one of the best teams. Everybody's outgoing, friendly, experienced. We have a newly remodeled pro shop from a couple years ago. Got some great merchandise in there at great prices compared to other locations. Okay, we're not Walmart. We're not selling Walmart products. We're selling polos and logoed merchandise, apparel, and as well as having pro equipment. The golf course, another strength. We renovated the championship. We're basically backside bunkers is kind of one of the final things to complete the project. But we've got a golf course usually, thank you, Mark, that's usually in very good condition. And we also have an executive course for beginners, people that really can't play a full 18 holes anymore, and it's really test your short game. It's great. Our golf programs, tournaments, clinics, lessons, all build to our strengths of our department. Now we move on to weaknesses. I said the team was our strength. Well, team is also a weakness. And the fact that it's a weakness, it's very hard to find employees. I've been an employee down, I think, since I've been here. We have been an employee short, and we can't seem to get qualified people. We had some turnover with a couple of people that we thought were going to work out. They didn't work out. It's really just a matter of mostly it's 80% customer service, 20% knowledge. And unfortunately, a lot of those people that are applying don't even have the 20% knowledge of golf. And you really don't need to know about golf. You just need to know what a tee time is. You need to know what it's like I said, starting time. You need to know just a couple of things to actually be good. And it's something that's, if you've never played golf, they're hard to teach unless you've actually played or experienced it. So staffing levels, that's a weakness. We're short a staff member. Homeowners not utilizing the golf course. That's a huge weakness. We have 3,400 homes in here, but we only have 325 annual members. That doesn't mean we only have 325 homes utilizing the golf course, but we only have 325 annual members. We can only market to homeowners. You know, we got to keep it inside. Also, then we go into opportunities. Golf programs, get golf ready programs, trying to turn non-golfers into golfers. Trying to get some sort of homeowners utilizing the course more often. Also, another opportunity would be outside revenue. Now, what that looks like, that is yet to be determined, but that's another opportunity. And our threats. Our threats are non-golfing homeowners, more of an inner turmoil, I guess. Quality candidates for staff in the future. Weather is a huge threat. This last year, February, we were only open 15 days in February. We were only open 15 days in March. So you figure we lost 30 days within the first 3 months of being open. That starting in January. So that put us behind the 8 ball to start off with. Now we have caught up through a lot of hard work, and we're kind of back where we need to be right now. But weather is a huge threat. Also inflation, that is, the CPI has just gone through the roof. You know, we're talking about hiring people. You know, my my staff isn't even making what McDonald's is hiring for right now. So, and then you go, well, there's tips. No, they don't get tips. You know, so we're trying to find really good quality candidates. We're offering them a future, and that future is get into the PGA program. We'll help pay for your schooling in the PGA. We're gonna get you through it so you can become more knowledgeable, be able to teach, start earning that extra income. Okay, that's the SWOT analysis. Now we can talk about rates. I don't know if you need me to read all these. You all have something in your hands, I believe, or see it? They have the screen, okay. So we're talking about raising the annual rate, $100. We did it last year, we did it the year before. I think it's a very nominal increase considering our inflation rate. Also, let's move on to the daily rates. I don't think we need to go through every single rate here. The daily rates, we're looking at the resident rate of $40. That's a 5% increase. Oh, by the way, that was like almost a 4% increase in the annual membership, as far as a percentage goes. Your resident rate, we went from 38 to 40 this year. That's a 5% increase. Resident guest rate, we went up to $5 to $55, which is a 10% increase, roughly. Golf cart rental fee from 22 to 24. So we've raised all our, and I can go on to the executive course, but we've raised all our daily rates accordingly. Mostly that 5% rate. Guest rate, we've increased it 10%. So we're looking with added rounds of golf this year with the increased rates will increase obviously our revenue for the year. Questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
You say you're down staffing. I mean,
Yes.
You're missing a person or two people?
Yes.
Okay. So, because I noticed that the pro labor costs were increased quite a bit compared to what the annualized figure is.
Correct.
Does that represent then the lack of staffing?
It doesn't represent the lack, it actually represents an increase in staffing if we get there, yes.
you get there.
That's correct. That does reflect if we get there.
Also, you made a comment that the annual rate was a nominal increase of just shy of 4%.
Yes.
Do you think that's a fair increase compared to all the
I
other-
do, considering over the years that I've been here, we've increased it $100 each time, where we haven't done the same increase for the daily rate.
Okay.
The annual, or the daily homeowners rate, we haven't increased. In fact, I think 3 years it was the same rate at like $35, wasn't it? Oops, sorry.
Yeah, and that's in the packet that I gave, 35 in 2022, 2021, and 2020.
Yeah,
Before that,
which
2019,
wasn't
it was
even raised at all.
25. So you had your residence rates
One it went
holding.
down, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think the rate of $100 is fair. If you raise it too much, you're going to lose the numbers that we have, and we've been increasing the numbers. So I think that's equitable and will continue to work for our benefit.
Yeah, Chris, can you go back one screen?
To the annualized?
Gino, this isn't finalized till the board votes on it, so it's just a draft right now. You can write it down, but it's until the final October meeting. I gotcha.
And Brian, I appreciate you taking the guest rate up. We do have a lot of guests who play here. They beg to play here. We're still cheaper than any other private club anywhere around us, with a better golf course. So I appreciate you took it up. Thank you.
Well, yes, and that rate is actually now pretty much, they cut me off. It's pretty much this, the going rate around this area.
Correct.
When you look at, I believe Oak Valley now is charging $65. Okay, now you say, well, we're only charging $55. Well, that $65 also includes a golf cart.
Yes.
The $55 here does not include a golf cart. So we're very, very similar. Tuckwit, same thing. They're charging actually even less than that. And then, again, there includes a cart. So I believe we're very, very commensurate with what the other rates are in the area. I don't think we can go too high, because then that's going to scare some people away from actually even coming out here. Not that it's not a great value or anything, but it just, maybe they only come out here a couple times a month versus 3 times a month or something. But we see most of our guests play on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Through the week, we'll get guests, but not near at the rate that we get them on the weekend. And so, and one of the threats that, that's there is really member play versus guest play. And why do I say it's a threat? At certain times, we're losing guest revenue to hold a member function where we're giving up that guest revenue. So when we're looking at doing an event, we look at, okay, what day of the week are we doing it on? Because we average X amount of dollars in guest rate, so we're going to be losing that guest rate for member play. So, I mean, there's a trade-off there. So would it be great to have every single weekend open? Yes, but that's not reality at a private country club.
Real quick question, when the men's club has a Saturday tournament, this is what you're talking about. Do you happen to know how much we lose over a year's time because of Saturday tournaments?
I don't have that, no. I can get it. I can get it, but it's not only the men's club, it's also,
Well, no,
just various clubs have those events, and so every time we have a Saturday event, we lose potential, I'd say potential guest revenue. It's not always, it just depends on the weather too, right?
Right, but since we live here, Saturday tournaments could be on a weekday too.
Well, but you also have, it is a 55-plus community, correct, but it is not a retirement community per se, because we still have a lot of 55 to 70-year-olds even that are still working. And we see that they don't attend the Wednesday tournaments because they're still working. So the only opportunity for them to play any kind of men's club events are on the weekend.
By the same token, they would play on the weekend.
Gino, just a reminder, this is being recorded. Thank you.
What I'm saying is that the working man, when he's only here on the weekends, whether it's a tournament or not, he's playing on Saturday. And, okay, and so typically those people are not going to be annuals.
That's not true, because I have several annuals that are still working, and they come out late in the afternoon to play, but they play enough golf that they realize that the annual rate is very, very
Better deal.
economical. So you know what the number is for actual paid rounds to actually have a annual membership? It only takes 6 rounds a month to have an annual membership. I don't know why more people don't get on it. It's a no-brainer. And I know a lot of people that pay more than six rounds a month that are pay-as-you-go. So, so the whole revenue thing, I think, yeah, secret's out now. But you see, that's where we could trade one for the other. But again, we're a private country club. We're not a public facility looking to make as much revenue as we can. That is part of our deal, is we want to make the revenue, but, we still also have to have, members have to come first. Does that make sense?
No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
Just trying to figure out how to free up Saturdays, that's all.
Oh, well, I'm not going to be the one making that decision, so. And by the way, Eugene, I'm going on record right now, I am not making that suggestion.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we're going to have Mark Schleiden. There's 3 areas that he's going to talk about. Thanks, Brian. So, quickly on Mark's item, year over year, 2024, he had a $1,053,000. Last year, he had a $993,000 annual subsidy. Change year over year is roughly $60,000 or 6%. Some of the big changes that are affecting his budget, again, is the street sweeping and the water feature maintenance. Those are items that were dropped last year's budget that are back in for 2024. We're doing that now. resulted roughly in about $50,000 increase. There is some small labor cost increase, even though there was a planned increase in labor. The increase was offset by a reduced first service fee. I do note that the board negotiated the burden rate to go down, and that's reflected in this 2024 budget. Looking ahead, infrastructure review and potential projects will be a focus for Mark, streets and everything. So we're just talking about the maintenance operations budget right now. Mark, insights?
Mine's going to be real simple. First and foremost is to meet budget each and every year. I've done that since I've been here 13 years now. We'll continue to do that. The board has, as Chris stated, renegotiated the property protection community patrol along with landscaping to keep those things in check. Other than that, I am a body down at this time, but we're making do with what we have. For the most part, I'm pleased with the department itself as a whole. My budget will be fine. I have no issues with that whatsoever. We did remove some things this year and put them other places to enhance Mark with the golf course on the trees. Over the last 10 years, I've gotten a pretty good handle on the trees that were issues. I've got about 4 trees left over the next couple of years that will be required to be removed. They're either too big, too close to sidewalks or the common area walls. But for the most part, I'm comfortable where I'm at and what I've got. So that's what I've got. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. The waterfall, the water feature at gate number 2, is that factored into this 24 budget for it being back online?
It is.
Thank you.
Mark, can I have the major expansion we're talking about in the lounge? My understanding is you're managing that. Is that correct?
That's what I've been told.
Can you talk a bit about that? I mean, what do you see? I mean, in terms of, contractors that can do this kind of job, are they out there?
There are plenty of contractors capable of doing this project coming forward. I've been here 13, I served 25 years with the city of Riverside. That's what I've done. I've managed large projects, project coordinating, general services supervisor. So it's nothing out of my realm. The current staff, I've got the one assistant, and I think that is a huge benefit to myself. We also oversee the RV lot, the leases, and there's 280 leases in there. Without my assistant, I would be lost. But with an assistant, and I've been able to have one since I've been on site, that makes a big difference as opposed to me and as opposed to with Brian and Birchfield. Those guys don't have that backup that I have. So that allows me to spend more time out of the office and accomplish what I need to task. The project itself it's a large project, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. It'll come together quickly, and I have no issues with it whatsoever.
Okay, good.
So, have you estimated then the time for that project? I mean, have you looked at it? Is 4 or 5 months then a realistic time?
The realistic number will be when the plans go out for RFP.
Okay.
So plans, they're still being drawn. The board's still working on the design concept. Once those plans are in hand, the consultant will send that out to contractors for an RFP. Then we're going to start getting real numbers and real timelines.
Okay.
Until then, we're pretty much at a guessing game.
Okay, thank you.
The consultant, who are you referring to?
The architect on the
Okay.
project,
And Jorge.
and the designer, right?
Yeah, I don't want anything to do with the RFP, sending that out. That'll come to them. The board will receive a closed bid, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
This might be more a question for Chris, is on the budget proposal here, there are a lot of items on maintenance, repairs, plumbing, that are over budget. Is there any possibility that those should have been listed as, changed over to reserve items?
There could be some items. We have Mark's assistant is working with the accountant to identify that they meet the threshold. The problem is that what we've seen is, and Mark didn't talk about the aging community, we're all aging, but the aging community is that there are little things. It's numerous little things that don't meet the threshold at different areas that sometimes surprise us. The work being done for the South Clubhouse in preparation for the dehumidifier and everything, there was little maintenance items there. Little maintenance items for plumbing dealing with the fountains, and then they can be capitalized or put in, they qualify for repair replacement because of their size. So there's some opportunities there. And again, we're working with Mark and his assistant to make sure we identify those at the beginning.
Now, that's not a dollar threshold you're talking about.
There is a dollar
Oh,
threshold.
there is a dollar
Yes.
threshold, okay.
Yes.
What, can you
It
tell
was
me what that is?
$1,000. Treasurer 3 years ago instituted a $1,000 threshold on that, or extension of life of 2 years or more.
Oh, that's complicated.
Now you see why Mark and his assistant that he's had, this is an issue where, again, it's a training issue, but it's also, I'm working with Mark because there's an easier way. I've done it in government. Mark has done it where it's an easy threshold. If it meets this, you just capitalize it. And I think we need to, we sometimes make things too complicated, more complicated than they should be.
I would agree. Any other questions?
So the 1.1 million that's going to be for the green belt, can you elaborate on what that's going to be taken care of?
So that is, again, the cost allocation then falls under landscaping, so it represents the 35% of the golf course that is considered common area, non-golf course. And so Mark actually just is burdened with it in his landscaping portion of budget, really has no oversight of it.
No.
That is a Birchfield's costs that are then allocated. So Birch is really the point where he has to make sure he's monitoring and managing his, there's your first one, Schleiden, managing his department.
So we're assuming that's not for replacement of plants, that planting that was improperly placed?
No.
No.
Okay, if there's nothing for maintenance, I'm going to go on to the second part of Schleiden's item, which is he talked about property protection, community patrol. Year over year, we're looking at estimating a $65,000 roughly increase of 6%. The projected increase is expected from community patrol vendor and will cause an increase in the 2024 budget. Looking ahead, we continue review of community patrol efforts. Mark is the liaison with that vendor, and we're still looking at ways that we can incorporate the use of technology to assist. That's cameras, access control. If we want to look to reduce labor, then you start putting in, we talked about that in the past, of the microphone system at a gate, but there's still a desire within this community to have at least 2 manned gates, the north and then here for the main. And so right now that is the numbers. What insights do you have, Mark?
The community patrol, over time, we've reduced some of the hours posted. For the most part, Securitas and Allied Universal prior to that, we have isolated incidents that occur in this property, and we all see it in Facebook wherever we travel through. They tend to be homegrown problems within. And once we address those issues, for the most part, the community is protected, it's covered, it's monitored. Securitas, like I said, they came in with a 6% increase this year. I believe we're proposed to leave the schedule and the hours as posted. It's like everything else, we talk about the POS system, we talk about the new integration of a lock system and cameras, and it goes on and on and on. And this board and boards prior, their goal is to try to keep everybody appeased and keep numbers at a reasonable rate. Had we just dumped everything on this budget or budgets in the past, y'all would be running out of here so fast with the rates. it's impossible to tackle everything at once, and it's bite by bite, piece by piece. And right now, like I said, a big thing was getting this, the fountains up and running again. I know that was a huge burden on the board. The sandwich is complete. We'll get this new project, the lounge, completed here, like I said, coming up shortly. We still have issues with, security systems throughout the entire community, locking systems for all doors. Do we go to a phone, a new phone system is outdated. So there's a lot that is, 30 years. Over the weekend, I had a gas line break at the North Pool. So 30 years underground, pipes are starting to go bad. We see it in the city streets. We see it in our streets. The infrastructure is failing, so more and more needs to be put into these budgets to accommodate and treat what's needed, so.
One good thing to be aware of on the community patrol is that this board has been successful in getting Banning PD to offer services and no extra charge to us. They have been coming here, having officers come approximately 3 times a day, to monitor. Not a schedule, but whenever they can, they come here. They're going to be coming to the community awareness session next Tuesday and talking about their new policing program they're going to offer. It's called team policing, team community policing that they're going to be offering here. So that'll be interesting because we'll again be getting more officers here in our community at no additional charge to us.
Questions on this item? Okay, moving forward to the last part of Mark's item is landscaping. As we discussed, last year was 1.69. This year it's 1.64, about a $45,000 reduction year over year, roughly 3%. We are currently in that. There are pretty much 5 line items in this, and right now Mark is working with the landscape vendor. What price increase will incur or we will have in 2024. Remember, I believe it was May or June, we started the contract with Artistic after the RFP. So that will run into next year, and Mark is already trying to, for budget purpose, find out what that potential increase. We are expecting an increase in the budgeted irrigation repairs and landscape extras. Mark says that something happens, something in the habitat area that needs to be addressed, or there's a break. We've seen some more of that, and we are increasing the budget for those line items. We talked about the green belt and what that represents. So again, we're waiting for Mark to finalize with the landscape vendor of what the potential increase will be in next year's budget. Questions? Or I'm sorry, Mark.
Artistic, I think it was just recently that the board finalized Artistic's new contract. I think we were all pleasantly surprised at the cost reductions and the savings that were there with the closest competitor. I am a firm believer in Artistic. I think they do a fantastic job. They're not perfect by any means, but the value that we get for the product that we receive, I think, is outstanding. We have issues each and every day with not only patrol, but with landscaping, with my department. It's an ongoing battle, but it's something that's manageable. 9 out of 10 times when homeowners need something, I can address it immediately, if not the day after. And that goes in part to the vendors that we currently have in hand, because a lot of times I would be told to pound sand when I'm extremely demanding on all of the vendors that we currently have. I'm probably their worst enemy and their best friend. But I demand a lot of them, and these vendors are there to perform. And like I said, do we have issues? Yes, but we address them each and every day. Questions about landscaping?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, next I'll put the timer on for myself. Jason is right now covering, so we don't have tingy sound. Quickly, recreation. Year over year, what we're looking at is last year we had a $569,000 roughly budget. This year we're about $607,000, an increase of about $37,000, 6.5%. Labor costs here are the largest driver in this budget. Even though we had planned, there were some increases with labor cost. That was reduced in part, again, by the reduced burden rate by FirstService. Pool monitors will be returning. We started those back up at the main pool the last couple of weeks of September or August. I can't remember. Jason would have to correct me. Both. So we have put those back in. That's a driver for labor going up. Also, we've looked at the recreation activities. Jason and Linda's come along very well helping that department. So we're looking at some expansion of events in 2024. Looking ahead right now, the hiring of the recreation director is the priority. Jason is wearing 2 hats again. This happened back in March. Right now, we just need to stabilize that director level. That's where we're at right now. Questions?
I have a question. On the internet services, it says you're going to increase the bandwidth in clubhouses.
Yes.
How do they do that? Isn't that a capital item?
No, they are going to Spectrum, or in talks, we'll be presenting that to the board, will be moving us over to fiber here at their cost. What it will do is the monthly fee for that will go up, and it's a 1-year agreement with Spectrum. And so in essence, we're moving away from the coax cable and utilizing fiber. Unfortunately, there are no fiber runs to the North Clubhouse, South Clubhouse, not to the gates, and so this is the only area that they have a fiber run that they can do.
When is that going to be?
The board first has to approve it. They are going to look at it on the October 11th meeting, or October 11th meeting. So hopefully we can implement something in November.
Great, thank you.
I have a question. Will we anticipate any savings to the recreation budget when we don't have a director and we have someone else doing double duty, as he's done for half the time?
There is some savings for this year, but the mental health is an issue. We don't want to burden. Jason is a trooper, though.
Okay, thank you.
I got a question. Regarding the main clubhouse pool, if my memory serves me correct, that's part of the footprint for our liquor license.
That's correct.
Okay, when the lounge is closed, is it still off limits for liquor?
Yes, because we
Okay,
the liquor license still is in play.
Well, I can tell you, this is something we do need to monitor, because last night, there were quite a few people out there with floating drinks.
Got it.
When that occurs, contact Securitas and have them come over and deal with it. Thank you.
Any other questions on recreation? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next one, which is going to be planning and compliance.
And that's you again.
That is me again. Very small change year over year, about $3,000, rough change, 1%. Labor cost, it really in planning compliance, it's the labor, the force staff. Again, there are some cost increases in labor, again offset by the reduction in the burden rate for service. The vehicle expenses have increased as those vehicles have been falling apart. There's current recall on those. And so looking ahead, those vehicles are expected to be replaced in 2024 and are notated in the reserve study to be replaced. Any questions? That's a pretty easy department, so. Okay, moving on. Let's get into administration. So administration, year over year, last year we were at 2.41 million. This year, 2024, we're looking at 2.48, roughly a $70,000 increase year over year, 2.9%. We've had some planned reduction in collection costs and bad debts based on the activity we've seen so far. Insurance costs, unfortunately, are expected to increase in 2024, and we are seeing entire industry change before us with insurers pulling out of California, homeowners having their insurance dropped and having to go to the state-provided system for fire insurance. We expect an increase, and we've talked with our broker. They will be shopping it in November, and December. They do that because it's 60 days before the term starts, so they can't get ironclad quotes at this time because, again, we're going to approve a budget with an estimate based on the broker's insights in the industry. Labor costs increased about 2.48%. And again, even though there's planned increase, again, the board's negotiation with First Service has reduced the burden rate. So it reduced it down to the 2.48. We will continue to monitor delinquencies. That will be a focus in 2024, especially with our foreclosed homes. We are at 9 right now. Staff will continue to monitor the insurance developments as well in California and see, again, dealing with members. This has been a topic. I have members calling me, talking about them losing insurance. Unfortunately, the HOA cannot provide insurance for their individual homes. There is a state program that is there for citizens of California to get involved with. So that's a general overview. What questions, Board, FAC?
Chris, in regards to the insurance, I think we mainly use one broker.
We do one broker, and then they shop it out.
They do shop it out.
Yes.
And have we input to them about the sprinklers on the Breckenridge up there and the tile roofs and all that?
Yes, this is, Bill, that's a great question. We've been on this path for about a year and a half. Even Lori has connections to CAL FIRE. We have found out how the maps work within California, how CAL FIRE develops it, and it's a risk assessment. Even though we have Mark Schleiden's team going up there to maintain, we have some sprinklers and drip system. There's still a risk that CAL FIRE says, this is the risk area. The insurance companies come in and say, and they can do greater. They can say, well, you say this part, but I feel it's bigger. And again, we're going to see that knee-jerk reaction after what happened in Maui. You might remember years past, it was the town Paradise, yes. And so even with that, their insurance companies don't like high risk. They want to make money. And unfortunately, we have high. Lori, what do you got?
I just wanted to interject. I have also recently been notified that with the fire that recently came quite close to Sun Lakes, that now they're going to be very adamant about those boundaries. Didn't help our case.
That's what I would imagine, and I know we won't know until October just how bad this situation could be, but have we also ever considered self-insuring all insurance?
So this is something Gary has brought up, discussing. We have not found anyone in the HOA industry that is doing that, but we're still looking at what other options may be in other states that have done it and see if that might be something California can do, but we haven't come across that for the HOA.
Thank you.
Does First Service have a link to insurance companies?
Do they have a
link? Or
They do. They have brokers that they utilize to get insurance, and they offer that to associations. But again, dipping into what Bill said, they have no knowledge within California of that type of self-insurance, or Gary had another name for it. I can't remember. It was a term.
Captive
insurance.
insurance.
Yeah, right.
Real quick question, it's a small one. What's this federal tax expense and franchise tax expense?
So that is our expected state and federal tax for the year of 2024 that we would incur potentially. Yeah, so we're booking it for accounting purposes, we're booking the tax, even though for 2024 we'd pay into 2025. The expense is incurred in 2024, and that's the estimate we have right now.
Mark, not Mark.
Mark,
Chris.
I can call Mark, get back here. Gary wants to talk to you.
I guess this is something that I've talked about quite a bit in treasurer's reports, and that's our cash position. And, I'm in this budget, there's a page where I see that at the end of August, our liabilities exceeded our total assets. So, and I also, at my request, and I appreciate it, you've included in the budget a cash flow projection. And, you know, in some months, in this
Right.
projection, we actually go negative.
Right, I've got to go back and fix that because those will be deferred items or payables at month end.
So in basically increasing the liabilities. instead.
Yes, yes.
So are you, I understand that there's a proposal to build some reserve in the operating fund. Do you believe that's adequate, or, I mean, how do we address this? Because I feel like it's an ongoing sort of risky situation.
Well, you tried to address it last year when you were on the FAC. The issue is that it's recovering from losses that occurred in prior periods. Usually, if you know you're going to have a loss, you will, in the budget period, say, not only do I need to cover my projected expenses for the following year, but I need to recover the loss. And that wasn't done in the past. And so what we're now behind is whatever cash, I call it the John Clark cash reserve that we had based on a lot of good things that happened in the past with the Wailea house that was foreclosed upon, made money on. There was a cushion. And that cushion dwindled after 2019, 2020. Now we've been building it back, and I think that was one of the handouts I put in the board's packet as well as the management report. We're building it back, but still, you know, bringing back, I think I had asked the board, you know, you're looking at 500,000, I can't remember now, Gary, I don't have it in front of me, but it was trying to get back 500,000, but that is then a direct impact on assessments. For every 40,000 of costs, that's $1 of assessments, and so.
Yeah, you had to increase the, I guess, available reserves in the operating fund to do 585,000, it would be a
Right, there you go.
$14.66 increase. I guess we, from the board standpoint, are looking at potentially a $3 increase to help with the operating reserve. I mean, are you comfortable with that, or do you feel like we need to do more than that?
I would always love to get more, but I think right now that the board, there's two things. I think you're going to have to recover this over time, and it might be that this year you do this, and then next year you do recovery for some more instead of a huge burden on the members and their monthly assessment. So I think what we're going to have to do is to, excuse me, the fly is over the next couple of years, recover it instead of one shot. I would love it to be one shot, but I don't know if the members can stomach that.
I agree with you. I mean, I think, obviously, it's great to be able to keep our HOA low, but I do think we have to be aware of our position from a cash standpoint and liabilities. And I also think I had a friend over, and they just bought a house in Altus, and their HOA is virtually the same as ours. So as much as I agree, I'm sensitive because I do think there's a segment of our community that lives on fixed income. So I think it's great that we are holding our HOA low, but I want to make sure we don't run out of money. So that's my concern.
And that's the struggle. That's the struggle I think the board and we all have is what's the amount. This is for the corporation, it's best to get it all at once. But for the citizens, the members, the ability to handle that, the austerity measure, so to speak, that's difficult.
Well, I think the board is willing to begin addressing that, and we'll be, I believe, recommending a $3 increase for a $120,000 capture this coming year in 2024. And so we are going to begin addressing that. The reserve and replenishment fund voting, could impact it too.
definitely could.
Depending on whether or not that passes. But at least we acknowledge it, and we're going to begin addressing it, and we're not going to do it all at once. I believe it's just going to be a $3 increase on top of the proposed increase that's here in your handout.
Bob, if I can just take, you bring up a good point. That passing of that CCNR amendment would be a help in the 2025 budget that we do. Gary, that your goal of bringing, or the board's goal, I should say, of bringing that could be accomplished if that passes. There's several things that, and we'll talk about that a little later as we get to reserves. Any questions on administration? Okay, moving on. Let's talk about utilities. These are non-golf utilities for the HOA. Pretty much, I think I messed
We jumped
up.
over the bulk cable on.
Did I
item
jump over that, Bob?
Number
Thank
9.
you. There we go. I did indeed, thank you. So let's get back on to bulk cable. This is one of our largest. This is a 5-year agreement that we have. It is expiring August 3rd, 2025, and so the board will have to look at preparing to negotiate that in late 2024. It goes up 4% per the contract. It doesn't exactly go up 4% because there are fees that are involved. There are some tax, and I put that into the packet as well, a kind of history of the payments made to Spectrum and their cost increases. So you have a TV surcharge and taxes and fees, and those change. And so right now, we're looking at a 4.06% increase, 96,000 year over year. Any questions on this one? Okay, now we're going to move on to utilities. Let me go down here. 1 second. Okay, utilities. And I think, unfortunately, my slide is going to be off on this. I just looked at, 2024 is actually $774,975, not the same as 2023. There's a $12,000 difference roughly and about 1.66% difference. So I'll be updating that slide before I put this online. The budget for refuse collection and natural gas increased based on our projections for 2024. Jason and Mark Schleiden are working on this, and I'm going to say one moment as a public service announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know where the camera is. Bob, I'll look over here. Please do not throw your trash into the association's dumpsters. We have incurred a large expense. We have members just tossing over chairs, tossing over whatever into the trash. And so what happens is Waste Management goes, okay, I'm glad to help at a cost.
Yeah.
And the burden of a couple of people's errors burdens the whole community. And so I kindly ask members to not put their trash into the association's trash cans. I know it's tempting. The South Clubhouse trash can is just there, just waiting to be filled. Please don't. So we are seeing a cost increase. Mark Schleiden and Jason are working. We're going to have to put cages on the top. You see these at Riverside, downtown Riverside, where I live. You see restaurants and everything do that so that people stay out of the trash. We're going to have to do that here at Sun Lakes to avoid incurring additional costs from Waste Management. A little passionate about it, a little angry about it, so I apologize. But that is a cost that you are all paying, and so we are going to have to do some preventative measures. But that cost, you're seeing a cost increase in that and in natural gas. And so looking ahead, we're going to continue to monitor the usage of utilities. Any questions? Bill?
Chris, the only concern I have in the utilities there, listening to the lady the other day on the utilities, on banning utilities losing tons of money on electricity or on their electrical department. I'm concerned that they're going to try to pass on some of this to us. So I'm concerned that we're dropping you're showing a 7%
I am.
decrease. I hope that holds up.
You a gambling man, Bill? No, I'm just kidding. No, we'll see how the city's, the investigation's going on, but and that's a valid question. I think in the prior year where we booked 371,000, we had expected a large increase to come from the city that came in smaller than expected. And so if you look at what we're analyzing, we're looking at getting about 280,000 through the end of the year. Even with that increase and based on the kilowatt usage and everything, we felt that we could go down safely to that 343. And that's basically, we monitor the kilowatts, the CCFs of the water, the therms of gas. We do monitor that. So I think we're at a safe point, but definitely that is one thing that's concerning, is where we think it's only going up 8% and we're able to accommodate, and they say, well, I'm sorry, but it's going to be 20%. We're going to have an issue, and that is a worry.
After they do their forensic audit, if they wanted to do a substantial increase, they would have to come to a vote. So we would be aware, of that, and we would express our opinions.
Rally the troops.
Through the ballot box.
Okay, any other questions on this? Okay, moving on to now, here's the big one, repair and replacement. So, year over year, the projected contribution for 2024 is $2.64 million, compared to last year's contribution of $2.1 million. That's a $540,000 change year over year, 25.71%. Now, this is based on the 2024 reserve study. This is the largest driver for why the assessment is going up this year. Inflationary pressure caused the projected repair and replacement of items to increase, and so the board had engaged the reserve study analyst to come out, do an on-site visit, work with the team. The board toured the facilities. The board got under there and changed the oil in some of the machines. Thank you, Randy, for doing that for free. I'm just kidding. But seriously, this was a concern the board knew was coming, and we looked at the projects, sat down with Association Reserves, and expressed our concerns of what we're seeing in the marketplace, the cost increases, and that is in the reserve study. And so that is a large increase. And so the expected funding rate at January 1st, 2024 is expected to be 64.6%. I put here that the repair and replacement fee is needed to supplement the fund. If future it keeps going up to 2.8, 2.9, next year's review, that is a direct burden on the homeowners and the assessment. If there's a possibility that the repair and replacement fee is enacted through the CC&R amendment, that will be a supplement to the repair and replacement fund, and would help offset those increases in the future to the repair and replacement contribution. We're going to be talking about this tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. As Bob said, I think the board said, we have two town halls. Wayne Gorelnik will be here. I know that there are people that have questions, and I urge you to come, but I think this is something the past FAC talked about. This board has said we've got to do it because the long term, in order to maintain a high percentage to fund projects that need to be done, irrigation and other things, that amendment is needed, and so we'll be talking more about that tomorrow. Any questions on this item? This was an eye-opener. Well, it wasn't an eye-opener. When we got the final report, we knew that it was going to be bad, but this was a pretty large jump.
Just to comment on that, Wayne is the attorney who's working with us
Ah,
on
yes.
that. And the two town halls, one is at 10 and one is at 1. And you will have the opportunity to ask your questions of Wayne. So please come, because you'll learn a lot. It'll be very informative.
Indeed. Okay, next on, so what does that get us? So right now, what we're looking at is an increase in the assessment of about 4.62%. The assessment rate of $16 getting us to the $362 mark. So again, a keynote here, and this will be online, so you can see the little graph. I like this one. In the 14 budget periods from 2011 to 2024, there are 6 instances that the assessment was raised less than 3% or had no increases at all. There's a nice little chart there showing that going back to 2011 for the community to look at. And so, Bob, I have 9 minutes for any last questions from the board or facts.
Yes, what I'd like to point out is that the projected increase of $16 to $362 would be changed by $3 more.
Yes.
You know, due to the fact that we're trying to, recover the operational cash. So that would make it $365. So that's what it's projected to be. We won't know until next month if in fact that's what it is. So if you hear rumors about, some significant increase, it's not. It's between $16 to $19.
Period.
I think period. And considering what we had to deal with, that's quite reasonable, weighing the ability to pay versus the need to improve and enhance and maintain our community.
Right, because I just would like to remind everybody, like, I think it was Mark Schleiden told us that our infrastructure is failing and fading, and it really needs to be addressed. So just want to remind everybody about that.
So that's encouraging everybody to come out tomorrow. Obviously, from the board standpoint, we believe this is a good idea for the association. It's done in other associations of similar size. I came from a community in Orange County where it was, believe it or not, $5,000 to join their association. I believe that people, when they move in here, they get the benefit of the existing infrastructure, the amenities, and we are looking at, because of the age of the community, increasing expenditures out of the repair and replacement. It increases every year over the next 3 years. So anyway, just encourage people to, if they have any questions, get to the town hall tomorrow and ask your questions.
One of the things that, maybe it's me that's making it do that. One of the things that this community has never done, as far as I know, is a special assessment to the homeowners. So that's pretty cool. We don't want to have to do that. So this is a way for us, because as Gary said, the reserve comes in and they have a 3% guesstimated inflation. That's where they're guesstimating. So the numbers that are in here reflect 3%. Well, we're way over 3%. So what they tell us we're going to spend on something is pie in the sky, because it's so much more than that when we actually go out and try to find it, if we can get it, as Birchfield was telling you, if you can get it. So this is a way, because we've really been trying to keep this as low as possible, as you know, and we don't want to have to do anything out of the ordinary. So this assessment that is being considered is a very interesting and feasible way to go about increasing the reserves that we have to work with so that we don't have to consider, heaven forbid, an assessment, a special assessment to any of the homeowners here. And we absolutely don't want to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, Beverly, we actually did have a special assessment once, way back when we built the underpass on Highland Springs.
Okay, so I was only 20 then, and I wasn't here. No. And if you believe.
The last thing I want to add for those at home as well as those here, any questions on the budget, send a message to management through the website. We will answer it. Jason doesn't have enough work to do yet, so we got to get some more for him. But he'll just forward them to Chris. So anyway, message to management. If you're here, you can fill out one of the slips, but message to management on the website. It will get addressed, I promise you. We go through those are brought to us by administration at every meeting, and we will get to them, and we'll pay attention to them. Thank you.
Thank you. And then lastly, for those in the audience here, the comment slip. If you have some comments that you'd like to make in reference to the budget, fill it out, turn it in to Chris or Jason, and it will be addressed. And then on the reserve study, everyone's concerned about the percentages and how they're going down significantly. Well, last year, the reserve percentage was 65.5%. And with the new on-site reserve study, this year, it went all the way down to 64.8, less than 1% drop. So we're in good shape. Thank you very much.